everyone, and welcome to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round all the video game news and stories for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds, in fact, on your podcast preference of choice. You're joining myself, Chris, at CyberChris2077, alongside the returning man of many pixels, Mr. Richie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, indeed. And below him, our chaotic neutral, one of the key members of the guild, Mr. Rob. Welcome back.
Good day.
Of course, I say welcome back, but it's not welcome back because it's the first ever show of the GamerGuild Podcast. We went through a rebrand, so for those from the formerly known as Helix Plays Games channel, if you're looking for X-Pass this week, if you're looking for Talking to PS this week, then you've come to the right/wrong place in a weird way, because we've got a brand new show that's going to include everything from PlayStation to Xbox to Nintendo to PC to Switch to retro to cloud and everything in between. But we do have a great show lined up for you all. In fact, talking about Gamescom Predictions, that is going live tomorrow. We'll be reviewing it and watching along here on the channel. Starfield going gold ahead of its launch, and a few date changes for things like Assassin's Creed Mirage and Alan Wake 2. But before we get into all that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, share with your friends, because we have done a bit of a rebrand, and we'd really appreciate it if you could help us with the algorithm, boost the new show, boost the new episode, boost the channel, so we can bring you better quality content every single time. A couple of bits of housekeeping before we get into the show proper. Of course, follow us on all the social channels at GamerGuildTV. That's what we are across everything, gentlemen. We somehow managed to crack the egg and land such a brilliant name that isn't actually taken already somehow across TikTok, Twitter, even Twitch. We managed to get GamerGuildTV, so it's locked in, it's saved. Merchandise, we should point out, a few of our viewers and listeners have been asking for it for quite some time. We do have a merch store. It's live now. You should be able to see it below the video, and more importantly, there is 15% off for the rest of this week. So our initial launch period, we got 2 weeks of discounts. So if you want to pick yourself up a Helix, damn it, I did it. Knew it was going to get me a game. Actually, you know what?
You can.
Scratch that. If you want to pick up some Helix Plays merch, if you want to pick up some Sound Stadium merch for the retro people among you, or some Gamer Guild merch, because that logo does look pretty sweet on a hat, a cup, a mug, or apparently a mouse mat, which a lot of you are interested in out there. Go check that out. It's all over there. If you want any new designs in the future, do just let us know, and we can work and tweak with it. But of course, this is the new show. We'll be doing a live stream every week, so aside from our watch along with Gamescom, we'll also be doing a live stream at some point. This past week, Richie, we dove into Middle-earth and we returned to the Gollum game. It was what we were expecting, I think, a little bit. Not as bad, perhaps.
It's a game.
It's a game.
Out of 10? What's the out of 10?
I think 3 to maybe 4 was our general consensus where we landed. It's not bad, it's just boring.
It didn't do enough as well to kind of tie in the Middle-earth lore. You just Gollum.
You just Gollum.
In Mordor. That's it.
Yeah. Let's just say after 2 hours, Rob, all we'd really done is collect a few dog tags from a prison and explored some tunnels. That was about the extent of what we'd done in 2 hours.
Dog tags a thing in
I mean, not there were
universe.
So basically, we were in a prison full of orcs and people in Mordor, and the prison guards wanted you to round up the dead people's numbers for the prison, and that was just what we did.
So it's just Gollum running errands, basically.
Essentially, so far, yeah. There's like a bit of Gandalf and stuff, but it wasn't great. But I bought it now.
You had a few glitches. There's one where you just had a ledge and there's a sprint mechanic, and Gollum was just sprinting at the ledge indefinitely.
Just stuck there in perpetuity. Just like you are, if you've tuned in for this show, the Gamer Guild Podcast, we, of course, are going to dive into all that juicy news. But before we do that, who do I get to do it? We'll do it different weeks. Richie, would you like to introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, a.k.a. The News.
The News. That's right, folks. We've got it. It's new. The tongue twister is back. Let's get into it, shall we? Because this is a different format. Yes.
I'm so relieved you didn't ask me what to do that, because I just hadn't read that part of the show notes.
I kind of wrote it weeks ago and I haven't looked at it since. So I was like,
that would have been so bad if I did it.
It's there, the news, the graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka the news. And of course, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the YouTube members who support the channel an extra bit further, just like you can, from as little as 99p. You get this show early, sticks and badges next to your name in the live chat, and much more as we evolve, grow, and change the channel. Over 50 of you supporters, and we do appreciate this. Wouldn't happen without you. Things like the merch store, things like the change in the design, logos, and more importantly, the intros, because the new intro for this show it costs money to get an artist to actually design it, the soundtrack, the theme for the show. I'm not a musician, I'm not a composer, I'm not a graphic designer. I could, as much as my brain could think about that shit, it won't actually put it into practice. So it looks amazing. I think the intro is fantastic. Who doesn't want to be a knight walking through video game history? And that's what we're going to do today. So, kicking things off, Gamescom predictions, gentlemen. Gamescom is tomorrow. Jeff Keighley is side hosting. It's kind of like his little side job. He has the Game Awards, he has Summer Game Fest, and this is the one Jeff does actually associate himself with, Gamescom. He's got an opening night live where basically we're expecting a 1 hour to 2 hour show of usually announcements, usually a couple of things. And I guess we want to look at some predictions, but unlike traditionally, Jeff has came out ahead of time and said it's more of like an update show. So I'm not expecting huge things, but I guess, Rob, I'll throw it over to you first. From a Jeff Keighley show, we've came to have a good understanding of what to expect, but it's a little bit different opening night live because he's kind of took Summer Game Fest and made it his own. This is more like just an afterthought, I feel like, for him. But any big expectations for yourself?
I mean, I feel like we're not going to get the cream of the crop from him, are we? We're going to get the kind of, I guess, like secondary type of news, which he wouldn't kind of say for the big drops. I'm thinking like Hellblade 2 is going to play a relatively significant part of it, right?
I was nothing Hellblade at
That's
all.
about time. That's about timing would be about right, I think.
I mean, it's overdue, if anything.
Yeah, right?
Microsoft don't have any more showcases.
Yeah, I was thinking Hellblade might be at Game Awards, because does it come out this year? Is it next year?
They've not.
Oh, do we even have it?
I'm guessing next year's got to be, but we've not got a date
I'm
for this
thinking,
year.
for me, with Xbox, I'm thinking it's all Starfield at this point, because Starfield is, well, I've already downloaded it.
So right.
Like,
I don't know. I feel like Starfield has like momentum to be its own type of thing.
yeah, I can see one last push though.
Well,
I think Hellblade, you let that go quiet until after Starfield launches, and then maybe Game Awards, you push it.
Starfield's marketing campaign is going to ramp up huge in the next, from now onwards, pretty much this week onwards, because the early access is from the 1st of September, so 2 weeks, and it's good to go. I guess before we get into it proper, if we look back at last year's opening night live, if you recall, we got a trailer for Everywhere, which was that it looked a bit like Crater, Richie, if you remember that game. It looked a bit like that. The guy came out the stage, he was forming his new company, and it was like, it's everywhere, and it kind of didn't really show anything that was that interesting. We got Dune Awakening, we got a trailer for Hogwarts Legacy, we got an announcement of new Tales from the Borderlands, remember that? That came and went without so much as a snuff. We got Weird Song, Dead Island 2 got an announcement trailer after the Goat Simulator 3 tease. We got a trailer for Callisto Protocol, Genshin Impact, Gotham Knights, remember that. Park Beyond, the Park Simulator Lies of P trailer, Goat Simulator 3, Return to Monkey Island, got an announcement. High on Life got a trailer. Moving Out 2 got a release date and announcement, which, funnily enough, is one of the PlayStation Plus games for this month, so that's kind of gone full circle. Lords of the Fallen trailer. Sonic Frontiers got a release date. Atlas Fallen got a world premiere. And that's about it looking at the... and PlayStation announced the DualSense Edge, so we actually got a hardware reveal. And Kojima announced a podcast. Is the most disappointing Kojima podcast announcement we've ever had at a showcase. So there is a history that we get some quite big announcements, but I do feel like Jeff coming out ahead of time, maybe tempering expectations, lessens the validity a little bit of this showcase. How about yourself, Rich? Anything that you bring to the forefront as a prediction?
Going through what we saw last year, I think Where Winds Meet could be due for another emergence, because it's been a year since we've heard anything, and that was one of them games that I think was one of the standouts of the show, like that kind of third-person action, Chinese, like almost kind of a bit like Crouching Tiger, that kind of that kind of over-stylized action. It looked potentially Dark Soulsborne in its style, but it looked really cool. We know Sonic Superstars is going to be there. That's already been announced.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the big ones, is Sega jumping in and being like, no, we are going to be there. My guess is we get a date for Sonic Superstars. It was teased earlier in the year, so it seems logical that if they're going to be there, the next thing to show off would be the date for it. Do you think Sega are going to bring anything else along with Sonic?
Potentially. Do we have... potentially an update on some of the Persona-esque games that they announced at some games first. I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head. Could also look into some of the Yakuza stuff.
Oh, well, they love a good Yakuza game, don't they, Rob? They like to bring along something for you, at least, in that franchise. Do we think, so, with Sega being there, Nintendo haven't done anything this summer outside of showcases. Do we think Nintendo bring along anything? The long-rumoured Switch 2 is still ready to be revealed to the world? Or do you think Nintendo keep that for a direct themselves?
Keep it for themselves, I think. I think Nintendo are less and less inclined to be a big showcases. Now, if they're not going to have a physical presence, then they'll just do their own thing.
So what about hardware then? Last year, as I said, we got the DualSense Edge, top-of-the-line PlayStation Pro controller, essentially. Do we think we get the rumoured PlayStation Slim/Pro, whatever it may look like? That's set. Remember, the rumour was that was going to be set for this Christmas. So
it can't be far off, can it? I know, like, the life cycle of, like, the console is a bit weird because of COVID and stuff, but it must be relatively soon.
I mean, if it is just a format change and underneath, it is largely the same as your PS5 as is, which is what the rumours kind of point towards. It's not pointing towards us to being like a Pro model. It's just more of a slim model. It could be here.
Yeah, it feels like something that it's not that critical, because we do know they've just dropped the price, haven't they, on the original base model? So that means they are trying to shift units out of the warehouse. Obviously, they're trying to sell them anyway, but a sudden sale price seems like unnecessary because the PS5 is selling so well. If they're trying to shift them units because there is a new one imminent, it doesn't seem like something PlayStation would bother to do themselves when the game, like Gamescom, is there. PlayStation is like full on number one in Europe anyway, so they have a big presence in Europe. It seems like Gamescom might be arguably like the best third-party place to host an announcement like a Pro model.
Yeah, well, a Pro model I think would be different because that's something exciting really to push, and you want to go double down on this is the best you can have PlayStation. Where a Slim model is, this is the PlayStation 5 already got on your shelf that looks a bit smaller, a bit tidier. So yeah. I don't think it's as big of an announcement as a Pro model would be. So it being at somewhere like Gamescom, they're just happy, oh yeah, we'll just put it out there when eyes are on it. I think that could be there.
Maybe some different faceplates, something like lesser.
It's hard to know because with Jeff Keighley playing this one down, it feels like if he's got exclusive to hardware reveal, even if I think it's not the most exciting of hardware reveals, I think that could be something that he would hype a bit.
Potentially, yeah. Jeff Keighley's obviously taken the mantle of that and said, let's play it down. But is he playing it down as like a red herring? So we all go like, oh, okay, don't expect anything. And then he brings some big guns. Because I think the last few of his showcases we've watched, we've kind of felt like they've both ended. I think Game Awards and some Against Us both ended really flat. Whereas like One More Thing wasn't exciting. And it was like, oh, I always feel, because he always takes a lot of feedback on, does Jeff? And it seems like he listens to his audience, and he's done better at like getting the adverts right and the timing and the pacing of the show. And I still feel like the last two, he's just really not nailed that One More Thing, like that hype moment he puts in the middle of the show instead. However, he does have a great relationship with the one and only Hideo Kojima. And I don't know if you've seen Kojima's Twitter, but he's basically been teasing cryptic stuff for the last month now, leading up to seemingly Gamescom. He's been traveling around the world, meeting up with people, posing for photos.
That's just Kojima anyway, though.
Yeah, but he's been extra cryptic, and he's excited about the Game Awards because he's mates with Jeff. Do we think we start to see a Death Stranding 2? We didn't get anything at the PlayStation Showcase, disappointingly, which means it's odd that PlayStation are holding back on one of the first parties, which is... We've seen the trailers, so it's imminently ready to go at some point, maybe early next year, mid next year. Do we think we round up this show with a Death Stranding 2 date?
Maybe a second podcast. That would be pretty cool.
Oh, it's just a spin-off podcast. He needs to do what we do and keep it streamlined to one because he's got too much on his plate right now. But yeah, what do you guys think? Death Stranding 2, are we primed, ready to go?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if it's there. It does feel about the right time to announce it. And I think was the first one I think was PlayStation exclusive, but technically it's not a first party.
Yeah.
So because then we know Kojima's talking to Microsoft, so a Death Stranding 2 could be multi-platform, so that might be why it's not there with Sony.
Yeah.
It depends how the rights, the nature of the rights lands. But considering his issues with Konami in the past, I can't see Kojima signing over the rights to a game to Sony for exclusivity. I could see being an exclusive deal, but not the IP.
Yeah, it's always another one because the way it came about, of course, was Kojima signed a deal with PlayStation 2 Death Stranding, but then it came out on PC as well, and it's done in Guerrilla's engine that did Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
So it's the Decima engine. So he's got that tech work, and I think Sony get first dibs on it because it's made using their proprietary engine stuff. And then, yeah, it was on Game Pass, I think, up until this past month. It just recently left Game Pass. So it's on all platforms. But, yeah, it's a very odd scenario because of the relationships and then the engine the game's made in.
It's that timed exclusivity, because by signing that deal for the timed exclusivity, he's got access. That's probably something that Sony's put in the way to get access to the Horizon Guerrilla engine. Mm-hmm. So now and because he didn't have an engine anymore, he needed that. So he's agreed to that access. But it's when it comes to the rights of the IP, I cannot see him agreeing to give exclusivity to any rights to another company.
Yeah. Because
I think he's been burned by by Konami quite hard. So that might be why this isn't appearing at a PlayStation showcase, because he doesn't. Maybe the next one isn't a timed exclusivity. Maybe this is just right. I'm going to put this on all platforms day one.
Perhaps. But yeah, other than that, I guess it's all just, we know we're getting updates on a couple of games that are imminent, but other than that, it's kind of an odd time because we're still with PlayStation, we don't really know what's on the future. Xbox is all in on Starfield right now, and we've got Forza on not the Horizon, Motorsport on the horizon. And Nintendo just does Nintendo things.
Sega, I have to get in this mentality because we don't usually talk about PC games, but Sega might bring the new Total War game. Because that got announced last month, and it's like in the Total War community, which sounds really lame. It's like the Total War Pharaoh is supposed to be kind of their first step on a walk back to like the historical games, because it's like the past kind of decade, it's all been about like fantasy and like the Warhammer series, and even like the Troy was kind of like laden with like lots of fantasy elements, and I think Pharaoh's their big step back into like proper historical titles, which a big chunk of the community like is really passionate about. So they might take the chance to show it then. It's not got a huge audience, but for PC gamers, it's a massive.
It's a cult following.
Yeah, it's a very, very loyal customer base as well. So maybe.
We could get everything. Like Jeff does a lot of like third-party stuff just to make money. So the reality is, we probably will see some mobile games showing off. We'll see some sponsorships.
Star Rail, Genshin Impact, that sort of stuff will be there.
There'll be like energy drink sponsorships and like just everything just to fund the thing. I love how you're like kind of like eyes lit up there, Rob, when you're like, oh shit, we can talk about things outside of the normal PlayStation. We can talk about
my main gaming platform,
just anything at all. So yeah, it's going to take probably quite a while for us to adjust to that, so do bear with us. But yeah, it can host anything. So thankfully though, we won't need to wait long to find out. It is up tomorrow. I think it's 7 p.m. BST over here in the UK, so we'll schedule a watch long if it fits in with our planning. I'm guessing it's going to run.
I'm going to throw out one more thing. Jack and Daxter TV show. There's rumours.
Yeah, I think it's a bit early for anything to do like that, but we shall see. But yeah, watch along, tune in, keep it locked to at GamerGuildTV, so you're kept in the loop, and we'll be posting about that. But moving on to the next story away from Gamescom, we have the news that Starfield has gone gold, everyone. So Richie, you mentioned it at the top of the show, but yeah, it's finally almost time. Bethesda's announced that Starfield has officially gone gold ahead of its early September release, and preloads for the game are available on PC and the series consoles as we speak. Richie, you mentioned you've downloaded it. Have you gone with PC or your console?
Console. I'm not sure my PC's good enough to handle it, to be honest.
Okay. I've downloaded
a fairly old graphics card. I might download it on PC and give it a go. See if it handles it, but
I mean, it's going into cloud as well, most likely. We've not had official confirmation, but that tends to happen with Xbox first-party games. I downloaded it on PC, which is the first time I'm really going to put my PC through its actual paces since I bought it. I've only ever played Roller Coaster Tycoon, Age of Empires, and Command and Conquer on it, and Battle for Middle-earth since I actually acquired it like a few years ago for doing the show. And obviously cloud gaming is what we predominantly do, so it'd be interesting to actually see if it can hold up and cope with the behemoth that is going to be Starfield. Of course, going gold doesn't really mean anything in today's world, because it basically means they can print it onto a disc, but the reality is there's going to be probably a huge day one patch. They've got another week or so to polish it, and then after the fact. But I guess I want to just use it as a touch point, because we are 2 weeks out now. 1st of September, early access goes up for those who bought the deluxe edition. Gentlemen, where's our hype levels at for Starfield now? I think, Rob, you mentioned it's crazy because you feel like you're almost getting it for free in our Discord server, I believe it was.
Yeah, it's really weird that this massive game, which has a huge hype train behind it, unlike any other kind of Game Pass title, I'd say, up to this point, and it's just going to be there. And I know it's not free. I know I pay monthly to... in the months where I barely use Game Pass, that's me paying for it in advance in effect. But it's still crazy. There's going to be a £70 game just drops on my lap. Yeah. I'm super hyped. I'm kind of nervous about it. This is how I imagine a parent feels, where the kids doing a piano recital or something, where you're just I
hope you're good. I hope you're good.
Please don't fuck this up, because there's a lot going on it.
I paid for these lessons.
I think every gamer in the planet, apart from just those that slavishly to one platform hate everything else because it's not their platform, everyone wants this to be a success.
Yeah.
We want Bethesda to be back on the top. I think everyone wants this to be a Skyrim moment again, because it's been a while.
I'd agree. As someone who's playing Skyrim right now, I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's my point. When I say a Skyrim moment, you're playing Skyrim right now because it was that much of an important game for gaming. Starfield could be the next.
Yeah, but again,
no pressure, guys. No pressure, Bethesda.
Nervous energy. What about yourself?
I mean, the pressure they've kind of built for themselves by giving it its own direct, talking about it's going to be the biggest Bethesda game ever. It's going to be all this. Feel like it's like that air of confidence I think they've added to it, and the size and the scope and everything. That direct was still fantastic. That was what totally convinced me I was in on Starfield, was that 40-minute direct. And as we creep towards it, Rob, I think you're right. There's that kind of just marketing train behind it, where this is huge, and it's just mad to think the year we've already had with massive titles. And when I read every day about Baldur's Gate, I think IGN just gave Baldur's Gate a straight up 10. Which is rarely goes out, and PC Gamer gave it its highest score in 16 years for Baldur's Gate. And then Diablo smashed it, Final Fantasy smashed it, Jedi Survivor, Mario. We haven't even got the Mario game, Mario Wonder, I think, is it, that comes out later this year. We had Zelda. It's all platforms seemingly firing on really, really powerful cylinders right now. And
it's a strong year.
Oh, it's so strong. We haven't even had Spider-Man 2 yet. And it's just that blows my mind already. It's such a rich year, and I hope Starfield, for lack of a better term, lands the ship. They bring this baby into roost, and it's it is what everyone hopes. But back to what you said, Rob, the fact that it's just going to be there on Game Pass, it baffles me, and that's why I am leaning towards the early access with the preload, because it comes out on the 1st, it's payday on the 1st of the month, and I'm well, I'm getting it for free. So I think the booster to bring it up to early access is £29. So it's okay. 29 quid, and I get it a week early. I'm off work as well because it's around my birthday. So it's the marrying of a lot of good things for me, where I'm thinking, well, why don't I just jump into it for the sake of it? But then we'll see. Review codes are out with people. We haven't got one for obvious reasons.
We just didn't.
I don't know how we'd even begin with that. But in terms of, it's coming in big, it's coming hot, and it's going gold as that developer seal of approval for we've got it across the line. It's good to go. So not long to find out. I guess now the review codes are out, we'll start hearing early impressions from influencers, reviewers. Obviously there'll still be is it DMCA? What's the thing?
NDAs.
NDA, yeah, DMCA. run DMC, whatever it is.
Non-disclosure agreements. NDAs.
Yeah, don't Bethesda normally have an embargo until the day before it drops or something like that.
I should have just said embargo. It's a much easier
Well, actually,
way.
this is the thing. Sometimes you hear about codes not going out to a day or two before.
Midnight,
That's usually a bad sign for a game. And almost always when you hear about them sort of stories, when there's reviewers waiting on the codes to 11th hour, then the game usually doesn't do that well.
Yeah.
The fact that the codes are out now suggests, it's good to go.
Yeah.
The confidence for me is who do you call it? God, what's his name?
Todd Howard.
Todd Howard. Yeah. Him saying that he's been primarily playing it on like a Series S makes me like confident there's not going to be like the Cyberpunk disaster scenario
or the traditional Bethesda jank that they're known for.
I'm still expecting Bethesda jank, but not catastrophic levels of broken game.
Yeah, I think everyone's looking for that extra bit of polish, because I do think Fallout 76 and stuff, that the audience was starting to get a bit fed up of Bethesda jank. Like what was endearing and funny, but in the older games, I think the level of quality expected out of video games now has rose so much in the last decade. It was like, right, jank's okay, but there's an acceptable level that I think customers are willing to agree with. And Starfield seems so huge. It's like, oh, but then everything they've showed looks so good. So like you said, Todd Howard's confidence, Xbox getting these codes out so early, because a game that's going to be 100 plus hours, multiple AI generated worlds. You couldn't just give them like a day's notice and say, get your reviews together, guys, because it's going to take a good few weeks for people to get their teeth really, really into this. But very exciting stuff. It's going to be Game of the Year awards. When Jeff Keighley comes back at the end of the year, it's going to be mental. I can't even imagine
There's
what's
going to be
in the
some massive
running.
Games that don't even hit the shortlist.
Yeah, which
that in any other year could have won.
Yeah, and there's absolute kind of like dark horses in there as well. Like Hogwarts Legacy could come out like it's still one of the top selling games of the year, and much as it got a lot of shit.
It needs to be in the conversation.
I agree.
You got Final Fantasy 16, Jedi Survivor. I think Jedi Survivor doesn't get in at the moment.
Yeah, I think so as well. It's getting pushed out. Zelda.
Yeah, Zelda.
The Kingdom. It's like, and then like I said, the quiet ones, Diablo and Baldur's Gate.
Baldur's Gate. Diablo 4's been hit hard recently with the recent patches, but it came out strong. If the next patch fixes the problems, it could be back in the conversation. You got Baldur's Gate, as we've already mentioned. Game of the Year is going to be interesting.
Forza Motorsport, Horizon won IGN's Game of the Year it came out. So don't count the racing games. And let's not forget, Moving Out 2 comes out this week as well. So that could just blow the lid off everything, folks. PlayStation Plus free later this month. Actually, it's out now, I should say. Right, so Starfield, hype is there, hype is real. Another big game, actually, moving on to the next story of the week, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Ubisoft's tentpole franchise, the one that they've promised is going to take it back to its roots, condense things down to a shorter game, cheaper price point. We've got some good news coming out of Ubisoft. Unlike Skull and Bones, which this announcement's probably by default push Skull and Bones back another month, Assassin's Creed Mirage has actually moved up a week and will arrive on the 5th of October instead of its pre-planned 12th of October date, meaning you'll be able to play Mirage in the gap between some other big titles like Lords of the Fallen, Alan Wake 2, Super Mario Wonder and Spider-Man 2. This one's going to be set in Baghdad, features the character Basim as well, and I guess I just want to use this as a touch point, gents. A game we've just said there about Starfield and reviews, a game being moved up a week early suggests good things for the kind of completion going goal for Mirage as well, right?
I feel like this is a Ubisoft prank somehow, which I'm just not getting.
Like I said, Mirage had to walk so that Skull and Bones could be delayed yet another month. That's the
I think if it's pretty much done and they're happy with the standard of it, moving it up a week gives that extra bit of space before some other bigger titles come out. But I think, despite this is the most excited I've actually been for an Assassin's Creed game in a while, with it going back to its roots, going back to not just being fairly solid, but relatively generic, just open world action adventure RPG game. It's gone back to feeling more like a traditional Assassin's Creed game. My issue is there's just too much other stuff I need to play. Yeah. So this is going to probably, for me, get pushed back to next year before I get hands on.
If Starfield hits this, we could just be playing Starfield, and then goodbye Assassin's Creed, goodbye Alan Wake. I mean, you just don't have a say in.
Right. It's August now, 19th at the time of recording. I've got Final Fantasy 16 just sat on my desk, still shrink wrapped. Still haven't even installed it on my PlayStation. I haven't bought Jedi Survivor yet. There's Starfield is looking imminent. Then there's Spider-Man 2. When's the time?
Is there stuff that
There's
moves
4
as
massive
well?
games that I haven't touched, and in 4 months left of the year.
Is there stuff that moves for you as well? Like, does Spider-Man take precedence? Is that like a day one for you? Because it is for me. I'm all over Spider-Man day one. I'm not even thinking twice about it. Regardless of how good Starfield is, Spider-Man still bumps it, regardless of how much fun I'm having.
Yeah, probably. It's probably Jedi Survivor is the one that keeps getting pushed back because I haven't bought it yet. So I'm at that point where, I haven't played it day and date. It keeps getting pushed back. So the longer I wait to buy it, just the cheaper it's going to get. So
You mean you don't want to borrow a Gollum from me? And dig in it out?
I'm good there.
Rob, how about yourself then? Assassin's Creed, bringing it a week forward, does that do anything for you, or are you not really on the AC train anymore?
It doesn't it doesn't matter how good this game is. It's just getting blotted out by everything else that's coming out, and more importantly, there's new things coming out. I don't really have the interest in getting back into the Assassin's Creed formula to kind of push other games back. So yeah, I'm happy they're returning to the roots and stuff like that, but it's just bad timing, I think.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to skip it till it's either really great reviews or if it's super low in price.
Yeah. Well, the good thing Mirage does have going for it in such a busy year is that the developers have confirmed that its completion time you're looking around 25 hours, which, to put it into kind of scale-wise, Valhalla, for all its expansions, you're looking at about 180 hours. And they said the map is about the size of Assassin's Creed Unity's Paris, so that gives people a good scope for it. So I guess if you have got a busy year, but you are a big Assassin's Creed fan, it's good to know that they're not dropping a Valhalla-size title this year, where everyone's going to look at it and go, oh, well, shit, I need to commit half my life to this one. So I think it could maybe squeeze a little bit more out there, but yeah, game development's mad because you spend 5-6 years making something and then you lock in a release date and then you don't know what the competition's doing, and then there's for all we know, at opening night live tomorrow there could be 3 or so games that get stealth drops or reveals that then add to the pressure of this year, next year. So even if you delay it and push it back, you're just pushing yourself back into other games. There's no real getting away from it, so you need to stand out. So
I think Mirage could be there tomorrow.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, Ubisoft are usually quite open to
one last push. Doesn't need its own thing. One last push to remind people it's coming. Feels right.
Does feel right. You're right. Another thing that also feels right is we've got days being brought forward. We've also got days going back. So for every Mirage, we also have an Alan Wake 2, which has been delayed by 10 days to avoid release date clashes. So just in time for Halloween, Remedy has confirmed this week that the release of Alan Wake will now be moved from the 17th of October to the 27th of October. And I read straight from the blog post, October is an amazing month for game launches, and we hope this date shift gives more space for everyone to enjoy their favourite games. We can't wait to show you what everyone's favourite novelist is up to in the dark place next week. Thanks for your patience, because Alan Wake has been confirmed for Gamescom, so do expect some more Alan Wake footage. Now, this is an interesting one because the devs are just straight up saying, they're not saying the game's not ready. They're not saying it needs more polish. They're genuinely just saying, look, we're aware of the gaming calendar that is happening in October. We're going to get out the way by 10 days just to let you enjoy the likes of Starfield, Spider-Man, the aforementioned AC Mirage. It's kind of quite refreshing for them to just be so blunt and honest with it.
I like it, yeah. But that straight up honesty, this is what we're moving there, this is why. Okay. Well played, lads.
Yeah, the self-awareness is encouraging as well. Yeah. Because, they know, where they sit in the, ecosystem.
Yeah. They know it's a good game, but it's around some absolute potential game. Alan Wake could actually end up being in the Game of the Year conversation. It has the potential.
It could completely. The first one was so revered, and I think the first one's release actually came out at a busy time as well, which is why it didn't do as well in terms of sales, but it became a cult classic because it ended up being a solid game. I do think there's something to be said about pushing closer to Halloween, though, because everything we've seen from the footage looks so, I think I said to you, Rob, it looks so Resident Evil that if you suddenly drop in the week of Halloween, that hype and that buzz, especially in places like the United States where they go mental for Halloween, I think dropping that and having a scary, spooky marketing campaign and live streamers pick up to do a special spooky stream, I think it could have a good bit of garnered energy from the still here.
I think that might be that'll be definitely part of the calculus. If they can associate the game with Halloween, then when all the streamers of the world are doing their Halloween streams, new game, Alan Wake, could be a great Halloween stream. Everyone jumps on it. Suddenly they get a huge amount of presence in the gaming landscape just by delaying a week, a week and a half. So, I think it's a smart move.
Although it still does face stiff competition. To give you a kind of a tighter breakdown of the timeline of October, Detective Pikachu Returns coming to Switch on the 6th of October, so you got a follow-up to Detective Pikachu. Forza Motorsport, 10th of October.
Not really going head-to-head with Alan Wake, though, these games.
No, but in terms of your time, Assassin's Creed Mirage, we know the date's just been moved. Lords of the Fallen, 13th of October. I feel like Lords of the Fallen's going to take a fall on this one, unfortunately. I think it's going to drop in there. Then Alan Wake 2. Then it's just going to release just after the new date, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, City Skylines 2, the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, and Alone in the Dark. So it does have some horror competition as well, but that's just October, gents. Just October. Not counting again, like the people still playing Starfield, the people still putting 100 hours into Baldur's Gate, the people who are going to inevitably pick up FIFA. Those filthy casuals out there, and again, we've got Call of Duty dropping in the 10th of November, I think it is. So, yeah, crazy stuff.
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
It's absolutely. The first half of the year felt fairly sparse. The second half of the year, it feels absolutely stacked, doesn't it?
Do you think this is kind of like the bottleneck of COVID finally being seen out? Like everyone was like push back, and then now we're just getting the bottle smashed, and everyone's just like gunning for games coming out left, right, and centre.
Yeah, it could be.
Well, we announced last week on our final podcast we did have a final reveal for Modern Warfare 3, and we've got a bit more clarity on Modern Warfare as well, including zombies and maps from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 are finally coming to existence with a release date of November 10th. So we got the name last week official. Now we've got the release date, November 10th. So after all those other big titles come out, we get Modern Warfare 3. It's come with zombie modes and classic traditional maps. It's actually launching with maps from Modern Warfare 2, not 3, which is weird to say. It's kind of like convoluted now. So zombies are coming over. They've actually been done by Treyarch, so the people who do the best zombies from the Black Ops mode. They're working on the zombies mode for this one. But yeah, this is going to launch, gentlemen, with multiplayer maps from Modern Warfare 2, but not 3. Which is, I'm sure they'll add them at a later time with the season pass or whatever. And there is a crossover event with Warzone that went live this week. The weird thing with this marketing campaign, I don't know about you two, but like I'm kind of intrigued by Call of Duty all of a sudden again. I don't know why.
It's this nostalgia.
It might be. Yeah, because this will be the second Modern Warfare 3 we've had in about a decade. And the ongoing thing as well is they're going to retweak the ending. So for spoilers for those who don't remember Modern Warfare 3, but the ending kind of sets up, we're in the stage of World War 3. If you remember the old marketing campaign, the M and W, where it said MW3, it would rotate at the end of the trailers to World War 3, and everyone's like, oh, it's doing it. Then they're going to tweak the end now, so this game actually doesn't end at World War 3. Which the big rumour is that basically the next big game Activision commit to is Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4, and we get the continuation of this rebooted story.
Yeah, rather than ending the Modern Warfare series, which effectively ended at 3. Mm-hmm. They've gone, right, we're going to reboot 1, 2, and 3, and that's going to set us up to go for 4 so we can keep pushing forward.
Yeah. Which I think is a good shout, because Modern Warfare it's their biggest of the franchise. It's like the biggest tentpole name.
There is going to be some outcry, because I suspect there's some characters who die in Modern Warfare 3 I think are no longer going to, if they want to go for Modern Warfare 4. Mm-hmm. Some like key characters you're just going to have to keep alive somehow. So that's why I think they're going to tweak sort of stuff. I think there will be a bit of an outcry, but if it does set up a Modern Warfare 4, and I don't know, well, I was about to say Call of Duty seems to be like returning to form, but that's wrong because they've been making record numbers all the time.
You don't know what Modern Warfare 4 is though. It's just like Euro Truck Simulator, where you just drive weapons to other countries and then drive the truck back empty and repeat. Be interesting to see if that joke makes the edit.
I personally would almost actually just want them to split Call of Duty. So Warzone's going to be your multiplayer. It's only going to be multiplayer. We're going to put all the different multiplayer modes in there, whether it's like your traditional team deathmatch, or it's zombies, or it's going to be like what do you call it, battle royale. And then the numbered Call of Duties, we're just going to focus on single player story. Make them smaller games, like more like an Assassin's Creed Mirage style thing. Maybe like a 12 to 15 hour experience, and go right, 50 quid, get in. If you want to go multiplayer, it's over there.
Yeah, it's weird though, because it's almost became like the IP. It's became a bit muddied by obviously the quick turnaround time. The 3 studios, it's Sledgehammer, Treyarch, and can't remember the third one off the top of my head. But they basically rotate the franchise, and then after the poor performance, poor performance, the lesser performance of, I think it was the last Black Ops game. They switched around production on some of them, which is why we didn't get a campaign in one of the titles. I can't remember which one it was. And then we went back to reboots. And then this one seemingly is kind of the least effort put into a Call of Duty ever, which means they should have the timeline lined up to do all out on a new one. But then back to what you said about the story and splitting them off. They've kind of done that with Warzone. And I would argue the reason Modern Warfare is their best flagship is because of the story. Things like Makarov and stuff, so
you have Warzone to make Warzone the multiplayer experience.
But then they charge 70, 80 quid for the yearly iteration.
But then you just drop the price like 50 quid because you're no longer having to build the multiplayer experience in the numbered titles, and that you can put more season passes and stuff into Warzone. So when Modern Warfare 4 comes out, you can have a season of Modern Warfare 4 in Warzone.
Yeah. It's so, like,
and then, as I'm
messy,
saying, you're putting zombies and stuff in there and the team deathmatch, so you're just going, Warzone is just your multiplayer hub for Call of Duty.
Well, yeah, that's it. Like, yeah, Black Ops usually has the reserved rights on zombies, but bringing it to Modern Warfare could add a different dynamic. We've seen Aliens in the past as well. I remember playing that quite a bit, but I mean, it'll still sell, like Rob said, regardless of what it is, it'll still sell gangbuster numbers, and it is just a shame that Microsoft deal didn't go through in time for us to get this day one. Like, now I'm intrigued by it. It's like, damn, this could have been free on Game Pass in November if they could have got all the legality stuff sorted out. But I guess we still have to wait many years.
I have it. I already have the original Modern Warfare free. I'm good.
Cool. Yeah, but no zombies. No Russian, no zombies. But let's move on to other stories. Let's dig into some Nintendo Switch news, Jen. Somewhere that we're never usually allowed to deviate over to. But we will. I think going forward, I think our intention is to cover Switch a little bit more direct. So like Mario Wonder coming out later this year. Pikmin 4 doing gangbuster numbers as well. Like really, really well-reviewed game. I've never played a Pikmin game in my life, but it's out there. Interestingly enough, we had it revealed, but we finally got a date for the Batman Arkham Trilogy. Is coming on the 13th of October. That's a Friday. It may be unlucky for some. However, Batman fans can finally get their hands on the decade-old trilogy that is the Batman Arkham Trilogy. And once again, just reminding everyone out there that Gotham Knights was a thing, came and went. Suicide Squad is still not out. And every time I see anything to do with the Arkham series, I just lament the fact that we haven't had another Batman game since 2015. It's like...
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, but you know what? I'm sure it'll run great on the Switch. It's it should.
It's a roll of the dice. Some things run amazing on the Switch. Some things run crap.
I mean, they're PS4 and PS3 games at their core. So if you can get Hogwarts Legacy to run on the Switch, I'm pretty sure this game should be pretty sound. It's been ported to everything. It was on Stadia and Amazon Luna, for Christ's sake, so it's definitely got to be able to go on the Switch. As far as collection goes, it's one of the best trilogies of all time in video game history, so the complete package in one place, good to go. But yeah, Switch. Any Richie, think you'll be picking this one up?
Not in October.
No, definitely not. Maybe not in this year.
This is the main problem. If there was nothing on for the rest of the year, and so I was looking at, what am I going to be playing like in mid-October, November? I'd definitely be interested because I haven't played through these games, so this could be the ideal time to do it. But I have plenty of other stuff to play, so I'm quite happy to wait. Again, as I mentioned with Jedi Survivor, it's one of them. The longer I wait, the more likely the price is going to drop. So I don't need to rush out and buy it.
Yeah. I can't believe you
haven't
played these
games. Origins gets pushed out of these these
Yeah.
conversations. That was such an underrated title.
It was. Origins, for those who don't know, Origins was made by WB Montreal, which you'll all know because they spent a decade nearly making the Gotham Knights, so sorry WB Montreal. But yeah, Origins was terrific. Prequel story, they got Troy Baker in to do the voice of the Joker. And yeah, a much younger Batman, earlier in his crime-fighting days. They introduced a couple of new villains, but the DNA of the Arkham series was fully there to see, and I thought Origins was fantastic. So yeah, I completely agree, Rob. It's odd that they ignore it because it's like it's all company owned by WB. It's all Batman. Everyone looks and sounds the same art style, and yet they just don't even acknowledge it. Like I would have took the reboot.
They just completely disavowed it. I don't see why.
I would rather WB Montreal made a reboot of Origins rather than the Gotham Knights. That's how highly revered that one is by comparison. I'm just still baffled Richie hasn't played these games.
I think I have Arkham Asylum in my Steam library, and I think I played it for like a couple of nights. But I think then when you just like, oh, I'll play a game. Then I went on holiday, and when I came back, I just, when you just lost or where was I in the game, and it just, and you plan to go back and start again, and you just never do. It was one of them situations. But do you know what else? Actually, I've just checked what's coming up in October again. October is really stacked. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, Switch. Have we got? No one's got time for all these games.
We
certainly don't. Solid.
Yeah.
We shall. Yeah, not long to wait. But yeah, again, that'll be great to have. Portability factor on the Switch is terrific, and Switch still sell gangbusters, so it's crazy.
I really hope Switch 2 is backwards compatible.
It has
because
to be.
There's so much cool stuff, like legacy stuff, like Arkham Trilogy, Metal Gear Solid, Master Collection. Coming to Switch is like, I kind of would love to have them on my Switch if when I buy a Switch 2 I can still play them on the new hardware.
I think Nintendo, as much as their business practices and keeping up with the times are usually very, very poor at best, I think they would be very naive to ditch this entire generation and expect people to move to a Switch 2 when we know, like, Phil Spencer actively came out and said, like, we lost the digital transition to PlayStation, and that's why their library was there. If they expect everyone to leave their library on their old dusty Switch and move to a Switch 2 and start anew with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Plus, it ain't going to happen. I don't think it's going to fall. Obviously, you'll still sell loads, but I think you risk pissing off a lot of people who are quite savvy and thinking, I've spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds over here. In today's world, you don't just leave that behind anymore. It's the thing of the past, that.
Yeah, I hope what they do is go, right, Switch 2, here it is. It's basically just the Switch, but better, because I think that's what everyone wants. I don't think anyone's looking at the Switch going, you need to completely redesign this. Just make it better.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a Switch with an N64
in every single
controller.
Yeah, in every single way, just make everything about it just significantly better. That's all we want from Switch 2. Have new games only be compatible with the Switch 2, but all games to have it able to run all games as well.
Yeah. I guess while we're on the Nintendo block of the show, because we haven't really spoke about it before, where's your guys' hype? Well, Richie, you spent many hours in Zelda. Where's your hype out for Mario Wonder? This is the first entry we've had in the Mario series since Odyssey. He's been sat on the bench for pretty much all of this generation, it feels. We had Zelda at launch, helped the Switch sell gangbusters, one of the best games of all time. Then we had Mario Odyssey the following year, also rated as one of the highest since Mario Galaxy 64, really, really highly rated. And then he's had a couple of iterations. He's had like the Mario Strikers, he's had his Mario Party games come out, but this is the first big entry, essentially for a good while. And do we think he's sunsetting the original Switch? And do you have any hype for Wonder, or are these type of 2D Mario games not really yours? I'm
going to straight up say I haven't really seen anything about it. I'm definitely more of a 3D Mario fan rather than a 2D Mario fan. I've just never gelled with the 2D Mario games. I find them too difficult. I'm just not good at them. So, when you're just not good at a style of game, then it makes it not enjoyable. I can appreciate them as fantastic games and some of the most important games in video game history.
Yeah.
I don't personally enjoy them. Mario 64, however, absolutely adored that game. I loved Odyssey as well, so I'm glad it's coming. I have no real hype for it, personally.
How about yourself, Rob? Do you have a Switch, Rob? Or is Nintendo your one blind side?
The one console I don't have is the Nintendo, because something had to give with all my other gaming time.
And yet, back in the day, my fondest memories of playing around your house on your orange translucent N64. That's some of my Nintendo memories.
You had the SNES as well.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had like my first gaming memories were on the NES at my nan and granddad's house, and they had like the duck hunting game.
Oh wow!
And, like,
yes.
Like
with
the cartridges.
Gun?
Yeah, like an orange, like a retro gun, and like there was a duck hunter, and all the the 3 Mario games that came, maybe 2 Mario games that came out at that point, but like they were all like individually packed, whereas when you got like the SNES, they're all kind of in that collection thing. Oh yeah, like I have a long history in Nintendo, but
your history of Nintendo is longer than mine. Mine was Game Boy Pocket was my first real entry in Nintendo.
Was it the yellow one you had?
I had the yellow one, yeah.
Yeah,
and
the yellow Game Boy Pocket.
I had the light blue Game Boy Color after.
Yeah,
and actually,
the massive battery pack on there.
Yeah, and like I
expansion,
remember like the games I had like the 2 Mario games that came out on the 2D Mario games on the Game Boy. Enjoyed them actually, so they actually kind of broke the mold for me. It's other ones I just couldn't, the console ones I couldn't handle. And then I also had Zelda Link's Awakening, which is still one of my favourite games of all time, and I think that's because that was my entry point to the series, and my entry point, that's where I fell in love with Nintendo, and obviously Pokemon.
Yeah, I think with the Switch, just kind of, I don't know, I just kind of passed it by, and I feel like I'm too far out the ecosystem to like kind of get back in. So
there's definitely a part. I think I'm similar. I have my Switch basically for Pokemon. Like I bought Zelda, it didn't vibe with me. I have not played the Mario Odyssey games. I've played the Super Mario Bros. Deluxe with my wife because it's like the co-op side scroller. Like I would have traditionally played with my young brother back in the day, or at my mate's house. But yeah, it's kind of the thing. But Game Boy was mine. Like Game Boy, I've still got actually right here the good old 1989 Great Classic, and it's still
It's actually yours, the original one.
Yep.
That's in good nick.
It is in good nick. I know it was in a drawer for like 15 years.
You had that in primary school. I remember that.
I actually probably brought
James
this
Bond
in
game
on like Toy Day when you
Yeah,
used to
I
Toy
remember
Day.
that.
Yeah, I've got that, and it's still got in the back the Super Mario and the golden coins. But it's like you can see where the thing's faded, where you would pull it out at the top.
You know what? It's probably a Toy Day back in primary school. You bringing that in is what probably lent me to go ask my parents for a Game Boy, and I think the Game Boy Pocket probably came out not long after.
Yeah. And it does still work, which is insane. Like this is as old as I am, 1989, and it still works. I don't keep batteries in it now because I'm always worried that they're going to swell and break.
leak, yeah.
Yeah, you put them in when you need them.
Yeah, because I do have the teal Game Boy Color, which I think everyone moved up to, like getting the translucent one or a color.
Yeah, I had the teal one.
And the batteries exploded in it, so I need to repair it because I kind of fucked up the inside. So I've bought like a little repair kit with a little tiny screwdriver. I just need the time to replace parts.
I think one thing I'm gutted about is my Game Boys. I think at some point they got chucked out. Like, I wish I still had them. If I still had them, they'd be on the shelf behind me.
Yeah, classic. And that's what the Switch is, isn't it? It embodied kind of the N64, the NES, and the portability of the Game Boys into one. So their business model has totally been revolutionised. I think that's why the Switch 2 should just keep doing what the Switch 1 is doing now.
Absolutely.
And I guess Mario will sunset it, and we'll inevitably get probably a 3D Mario as the launch game for the. Now Zelda's out; it ain't going to be Zelda, so the next big tentpole has to be. It's either going to be that or
Red Dead.
Well, what have they've been throwing it around for quite some time. Why can't I think of
Metroid
Prime? Yeah, that Metroid Prime 4 has been rumored for so long, but then it got restarted and development began from scratch again a few years back. So we don't know where it's at, but we did have Metro Remaster this year. I think it's been this year, which did really, really well. So that's crazy. But while Nintendo changes, evolves and such, and you'll hear more about it on the show going forward, do let us know in the comments below about your Nintendo history. If you want to hear more in the shows, we try and incorporate more brands and platforms into our show. We shall do that. Xbox 360, pivoting away to a different platform, is shutting down its storefront. So we got the announcement this week that after many, many years, the Xbox 360 storefront will be closing on July 2024. So you've still got a bit of time. Reading from their quote, Xbox will stop supporting the ability to purchase new games, DLC, and other entertainment from the 360 store on the console and the 360 marketplace, which is the website. Relating to the change, the Microsoft Movies and TV app will no longer function either, which means any movie content you did purchase will have to be viewable elsewhere from July 29th, 2024. Despite the closure, though, you will be able to play 360 games and DLC you have purchased via the backwards compatibility feature on the modern Xbox store, so it's going to be there plenty, and there's still hundreds to play. We will obviously, I think, for game preservation, lose some things, unfortunately, but I'd imagine by now, gents, all the big stuff, like the relevant AAA big games, has moved across.
I think that's the biggest thing. Without going through the list, I think that storefronts have to close eventually. The 360 store, it's 2 generations ago. It's time to shut that down. I was surprised when I was coming up writing the show that, the Xbox 360 store is still up.
Yeah.
But it is a shame that there is stuff on that storefront that haven't made the step up to the Xbox One or the Xbox Series store. That seemingly could just be lost.
Is the greatest installment in that series, and it's going to be gone forever.
Now, just because it hasn't made the jump yet doesn't mean it won't.
Yeah,
so
I think the
seems
issue
unlikely.
Is like 360 emulation kind of isn't where it needs to be to kind of have alternatives, is it, at this point? Like, I know there's a couple of good like ones in like kind of.
Well, you don't really
half-baked.
need to emulate because the Xbox Series is backwards compatible all the way back to the original Xbox. So you don't actually need to emulate. You just it natively plays.
Yeah,
No, it's more for like getting access to certain games.
Yeah, but that's just needs to just be transferred through the storefronts, and that's just seemingly where the hasn't happened. It's a shame. I hope these games do make the way forward, but I think we can just agree the 364 it needs to shut down eventually.
Yeah, I think from last year, like from PS4, Xbox One onwards, we know that's like the digital future, and we're going to lose stuff. I just hope like. I think Xbox have been really good with that backwards compatibility thing, where I think if any game has any merit behind it, there'll probably be a use case of like getting it across and doing something with it. But at the same time, there'll be a lot of shit that's lost. That as much as I like video game preservation, there's a lot of bad games out there that just don't deserve to see the light of day anymore. Yeah. I'm sure they're fond to that one person still playing their 360 and watching DVDs on it, but.
This is the crazy thing when people say like, "Oh, music from like the 80s or the 70s was the best, and it was just like way better than anything from other generations." Like, no, all that happened is you forgot about the shit that got left behind, and you just left with, like, the bangers. It's like music's no better or worse. It's just like
that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
But there is some big stuff in there. There's like there's some Crash Bandicoot games that haven't made the way forward. There's Mortal Kombat, the arcade collection, spelled with a K. There has some multiple Need for Speed games, some South Park games, Sonic the Hedgehog. So there is some big IPs. Yeah.
It just means they've got to remaster them, Richie. That's the grand plan. It's just, we remember this. Well, you can't play it elsewhere, but here it is in a remastered form. The one that always bugs me still is the license stuff. It still gets me because when I went to see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny this summer, I had an urge to like go check out and see what Indiana Jones games like I'd missed in yesteryear, and there was two of them. There was the Staff of Kings and Emperor's Tomb, which were both 360 games, and you could go on the Xbox store, you could search Indiana Jones, it had Lego Indiana Jones, and it had those games, but you couldn't buy them. They weren't there to buy. There was just the artwork and the brief description of the game, and then that was it. And I was like, oh, what's the limitations? I had to go out and buy both of them on PS2 physical from eBay, which I've got, waiting to play when I finally get time, part of my terrible collection that just keeps building and building. But it's things like that, like how many James Bond games are lost to time, Rob, where just because of licensing to whoever, and like I would argue like they are, for the time, the biggest. Like look how big GoldenEye was. Like there's other Bond games, maybe not as well revered, but they're far. Like we said, a lot of the shit gets left behind. The IP for movies and stuff, because of licensing that gets left, is shockingly bad.
Oh yeah, like awful. And remember as well, like this was a time in gaming where gaming didn't have its own IP really. Like it relied on kind of IP from movies a lot to ship volume. So those really big titles from that era, just they're gone basically. Like Nightfire and The World's Not Enough game as well. That was amazing.
Yeah. We've got like Star Wars games that have gone as well. It's just like anything. The Lord of the Rings games, like we know like the licensing, well, that's all over the place as well. And yet, like if you wanted to play Return of the King now, the EA game, how do you buy that?
Physical copy. Hope it's on. You can find one on eBay for a reasonable price. That's basically your choice.
What, like me, I've got a Series S. I don't have a disc drive.
Yeah, tough.
It's like, you should have bought the X, Chris. You idiot!
I'm absolutely. I'm in 100% agreement. Like, it would be nice to see these games, and I think it is when they are in licensing hell, and none of the parties will be. I'm sure like Sony have looked at it, or EA have looked at the Lord of the Rings games and went, "Oh, should we get these?" And like looked at the licensing complications involved, and thought about how many the sales. Like, is it worth the effort? And I'm guessing the fact that hasn't happened is the answer is no.
Yeah. Or if they even can.
It's not financially, unfortunately, it does come down to money. They are a business. Like, are we going to make enough money to make it worth the effort?
Yeah, that is the
yes, but it is not for them to deny the return of the king. So just...
Yeah. There is another way you could play them, but that will not be legal. So
that will not be legal.
So if you want to combat piracy, game publishers, get your games on modern platforms and we won't steal them.
This is the exact reason I pirate like certain TV shows when they don't come to the UK on time. Like,
yeah, like if I don't have the ability, I have no issue with it. If I don't physically have the ability to pay you money to access your content, don't complain when I steal it. I want to pay you, but if you're not letting me...
That's Richie's reason why he breaks into people's homes. It was like, I want to destruct your cat, but you wouldn't give me a key to your house, and you keep all your windows and doors locked, so I had to break in to stroke your cat just because.
I'm not sure that
it's like he's £50 for your car. Oh no, thanks, Richie. Well, I'm stealing it now.
No, we're not selling the car. Well, I'm going to take it because I want it.
Yeah,
that's your
you
reason.
can have it back.
That's the perfect reasoning. Pivoting
God.
away to some other Microsoft news, we had the story that Minecraft, as Eagle Eye Views out there, found some coding in the game's history that suggests that there is a series version coming out for S and X, because weirdly, there isn't a native version yet running on current gen hardware. We did see in the legal FTC case for Activision, they were talking about that, and Sony refused to give them a PS5 unit to work on games such as Minecraft, because then Microsoft would have had early access to the hardware. But things like ray tracing, which is big on PC right now for things like Minecraft, is it's seemingly we might get a Series X and S version of it. Makes sense, right, gents? Minecraft's one of the biggest games on the planet, and it probably always will be up there with the likes of Grand Theft Auto and Call of Duty. I always chuckle to myself when you see ray tracing in Minecraft, because you think, like, it's just blocks. How does it make really that much of a visual difference? It does, though. When you watch the trailer, it really
looks
does.
beautiful.
It does. And
have you seen path tracing as well?
Yeah.
Path tracing, like ray tracing, taken to the next level, and it's like, oh my God, that is stunning.
Yeah, and I guess these versions were inevitable, and at the end of the day, if Xbox weren't going to give it, Richie was going to break in and steal the ray tracing and the path tracing anyway. So it's only rumours right now, but it's got to come, right? It gets another marketing push. If you want it, if you somehow don't own Minecraft already, it's just an extra bells and whistles to add to this like mega game that's always going to be out there. So yeah, ray tracing looks absolutely gorgeous. And we had fun in Minecraft Legends, actually. I think we should definitely spend some time and go back to OG Minecraft at one point, because it's so simple, yet I think with friends it's so much more fun. Just like
that could be a good community stream, actually.
Everyone gets your jobs. You go mine. You go mine for this. You go mine for that. We'll meet back here and avoid the zombies and the archers. Absolutely. But yeah, Minecraft ticking away. We also have some news from Microsoft regarding Motorsport, Forza Motorsport, I should say, in fact. That arrival is imminent, but due to unfortunate problems, we won't be seeing some split-screen multiplayer. And I guess I wanted to bring this up, gents, because as a talking point, video game development takes longer than ever. Is it a sad day to see that a racing game is going to launch without split-screen multiplayer?
Yes. There's also a bit of the story where there's a couple of games in Series S recently that the developers have pointed out the Series S for the reason why they're having problems with couch co-op.
That's why you ain't getting Baldur's Gate.
Yeah,
anytime
Baldur's
soon.
Gate is the one that I'm definitely most aware of. But
and we should point out this comes down to Microsoft's ruling alone, that they want parity between the S and the X. So their internal terms and agreements with developers is that you need parity across all features. So unfortunately, the reason we don't have Baldur's Gate is because they couldn't get the multiplayer to work across the different servers. If I was Microsoft, would you not just bite the bullet and say, at some point we need to cut the cord from the Series S and say, like, look, you can still get the game, but it won't have this particular features, like a little asterisk or a caveat, because Baldur's Gate's arguably going to be the game of the year. And you don't have it for something silly as a term and condition that just says... I get why
the S has the biggest, the S has the bigger install base, so that has to be the primary loyalty, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe they do have to draw the line and go, look, couch co-op is one of them that we no longer require to have feature parity. You have to...
I think it has to be... If you break one of the once, then it has to be black or white, I think.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, couch co-op across the platforms, like, no longer has to be feature parity.
Well, no,
so
I think as soon as you break one thing, I don't think you can
open the
between the X and the
floodgates.
S. Yeah,
because then they go, well, why can't we just cut this feature out and give us this, and cut that feature out and give us that, and then it's like, now you're chopping and changing, and we know video game development isn't that easy, but
they might just have to discontinue the Series S.
They've got a new one. They've got a terabyte version coming out this Christmas, so
I know,
that ain't going to happen.
Thank God, because Starfield's a big game. Right?
I don't think you can, like, it'd be very difficult to break that feature parity rule while you're still producing the Series S. You'd almost have to sunset it mid-generation. Give enough time to before you announce something like that. We're talking years.
And maybe it just needs to last long enough for like the cloud server to like streaming to
Well, that's always the flip side.
That's one way you could do it. Use cloud as a backup. You don't have to have it on the Series S, but it has to be only if you have it on cloud, so you can still use the Series S to access it.
But then you've got that risk of, well, I don't have good enough internet for cloud gaming, and I bought an S for this game. What the hell, Microsoft? And then you get... But then this is where, for all the S has done, Microsoft really, like, gangbuster numbers and tech, like, we all have one. Like, so it's clearly where we weren't in the ecosystem before. We all have one now. We're talking
and YouTube wouldn't have been at all.
Absolutely not.
No.
And yet, if they made that decision to say, oh, Chris, you can't play Starfield on your S, I'd be like... Well, I feel like I've just been bent over a barrel and done over there because I bought it for that backwards, that long term, like any game can be played here. And it seems like it was a great decision to market it that way for value, but then now maybe the long game, it's starting to come back and bite Microsoft a little bit on the ass.
Yeah.
Lots
I
of
think
arse
actually
metaphors
now,
there.
if I was buying an Xbox now, I think I'd go for the X because the S does feel like it is holding back the generation of games at the moment. And it feels like these complications are not going away as games get bigger and more complex.
I mean, I think speaking specifically for like split screen on games, like how many people actually use it anymore? Like I think most
games, I imagine it's still commonplace.
I don't know. Like
I think if you've got siblings, it's a big thing for that. Like, my fondest memories in racing games are always like racing my dad, racing my brother, racing my sister, and then I guess it's pivoted to online. But do kids today, if they've got a brother or sister, just play other people, their mates online, and ignore their brother or sister? Like, how does it work nowadays?
Probably a bit of both.
They're probably like multi-console houses as well.
True.
They might just play like against each other, but on separate rigs, if you want.
They've all got Series S's that they can't play Baldur's Gate on because it was it was cheaper for the parent to buy 3 of the same one, but not that.
It's an interesting conundrum. Is this just the end of split screen multiplayer for like big games?
It manifests in lots of ways, really, because there's like probably less so you, Richie, but like Chris and I, there's probably meetings we could attend in person, which for work, which we choose just to do a video call, where we wouldn't have done that 3 years. Like we choose to do the podcast in this format, despite early from when I like moved, we could have easily done it in person, but we chose not to for myriad reasons.
It's a time saving thing. It's travel. We don't have to travel to meet up. Then we don't have to set up a room physically to do the podcasting and
microphones.
Figure out how the micro situation when you have multiple microphones in the same room. There's logistics behind it.
There's probably similar considerations when it comes to split screen, just in terms of behaviour.
Yeah. No, it's like a good conundrum to have in a way because it is convenient. But yeah, like you said, I think our goal was like, I mean, you're talking like if we ever go mega successful, would be have a studio and we would do the show in there. We'd all just get together and have like that one business location. But that's just a pipe dream. But in terms of game development, it's interesting how the devs look at it because I always think there's a lot of features people request, but then the devs can look at the statistics and go, you know what, less than 1% of our audience play this, and it just ain't.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Like we saw with Halo Infinite,
the numbers.
Right? Yeah, like it happened with Halo, didn't they? They pulled back on the co-op campaign, even though they announced it. They looked at the numbers and went, it's not really worth our time and effort, and the game's kind of getting shit all over, so why waste more money and time? So either way, evidently what you should do is do what Rockstar do and just shit out an old 13-year-old game with minimum effort whatsoever and still somehow do gangbuster numbers. We know Red Dead Redemption, it's not even a remaster, port to PS4 and Nintendo Switch came out this past week, and lo and behold, gentlemen, at a £50 price point, it's selling brilliantly. And it's number one on the PlayStation Store. It's doing gangbuster numbers on Nintendo Switch. Of course, it's portable for the first time. I mean, this is why, as gamers, we cause problems for our own self. We say speak with your wallet a lot of the time. If you don't like these decisions, don't support them. Everyone complains for 2 weeks about how bad this port is, and then every fucker goes out and buys it anyway, which means Rockstar they don't get any punishment for doing this whatsoever. Richie, are you one of the few people who went out and bought Red Dead?
Nope.
I'm guessing, Rob, you weren't either.
No.
I've heard
I love the game, but
I've heard it's doing well. It's been review bombed. On like Metacritic.
That didn't work with Hogwarts Legacy, so it ain't going to work with Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, so it's weird because the critic score's 87, the user score's 4.2. And there is some people I think are just salty. Like, there's some people are just marking it down because they're not happy with the price, and it's like, just then don't pay the price. Like,
Yeah,
There's too many people paying the price.
I've seen some one of the ones I've read is give it a 0. It said, "Oh, it's all great, all well and good, Rockstar porting this over to PlayStation and over to Nintendo, and screw the rest of us over." It's like, Xbox is backwards compatible, guys. You can just play it the original. You can just buy it from the store. It didn't need the port because it's already there.
Yeah, but still, either way, it's one of those you can't help it. It's just a shame that because it does so well, it just means that it goes back in the tank, and we're probably going to see a Grand Theft Auto 4 port, but they're not going to put any effort into that either, which is like, it's such a disservice to such a great game. And why would they? Because like you said, if they crunch their numbers, they look at the stats and go, look, we can spend $500,000 to port these games over, and our return will be tenfold what it would be to invest, spending time and money to make it from the ground up with a new engine. Like, the bean counters are just going to go, yeah, do that one. It's easier, it's quicker, and it gets it in our fiscal year. Win-win.
But I don't think they've sold this as a remaster or anything. They've just sold it as a straight port of the game. So yeah, I think you just have to judge it on its merits. They're not saying we've improved it or anything. We just moved it there, so you can.
Like, we've moved it here now. Give us £50, please.
But you don't have to if you don't want to. They value it at that, and if you don't value it at that, don't buy it. Like,
so I've been so pragmatic, Richie.
It's just lazy.
Sorry, but
it's lazy. That's what it is.
Yeah, but tell you what, isn't lazy.
Maybe, but yeah,
bringing games. Old Pokemon starters over to Pokemons. So Pokemon Scarlet and Violet got a DLC trailer last week showcasing that some hidden treasures from other generations will be making their way across, and you'll be able to find them in the wild. Richie, you're our Nintendo guy now on the channel. We've delegated that to you, even though you were an Xbox host. You are now the Nintendo guy. You put the most hours into Scarlet and Violet. I got stuck with it. It was full of bugs for me, and I'm not just talking Caterpies and Weedles. It was all over the place. So I give up on it completely. You put the most time into it. What do these Pokemon updates do for you in terms of returning to Scarlet and Violet with the DLC as well?
Well, personally, I thought it was one of the worst Pokemon games in a long time. I just didn't really. I didn't enjoy it. I think it was too big. It was too big. And then what happened to me is, because you want to explore the world, my Pokemon ended up overpowered, so every fight was no longer a challenge. You just one shot and everything. The game just became a bit bland and boring, so I never actually finished it. So I've no I had no interest in the DLC. But I know there is a solid fan base who have really enjoyed it. Some people rate it as their favourite Pokemon game of all time.
Yep.
And I do actually like the idea that we're going to put the starter Pokemon in there from previous generations, so you can actually just go out and capture them as part of the DLC.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you are trying to collect all of the Pokemon ever, that helps. And with the new generations of Pokemon games, I don't think you can actually get everything without some, like, weird convoluted...
Oh, the Pokemon Bank and save it and move it across. Yeah, I remember actually playing... But the stuff I just don't think was compatible as well to go forward. And there's weird stuff going on. So the more they get in there, the better, really. Yeah, it's a problem that every time they announce a new generation, they just make more problems for themselves, because now there's another 200 you need to add in, and the designs and the character assets and their animations and such. But yeah, it's good to see them going, because I'm a firm believer that the starter Pokemon are probably the most endearing of them all, because you spend the longest time with them. Like, even generations like 2 and 3, which they're never going to be as endearing as like Charmander, Bulbasaur, Pikachu, and Squirtle.
People love Gold and Silver. Gold and Silver's really well respected in the Pokemon community.
Cyndaquil, Totodile,
and
Chikorita?
Yeah, you're right.
Nailed it. You can tell I've just collected the
I've
celebrations
got them literally
cards
in front of me.
Yeah, anything beyond that, I think I'd be pushed. But the starter ones, usually, they're the ones that get all the screen time. They're in the shows predominantly. It's whatever version of Ash you're watching, it's what he starts off with. So they're all there. I've just realised the list of names is in front of me as well, and I still just pulled them out. But either way,
I'm literally looking at the graphics and drawing a blank.
But for me, I always go back to, I said at the Nintendo Switch part, that's when Switch is my Pokemon machine, first and foremost. I think the good thing is it's always sat there, and when I get that itch, I'll probably go back in without... But seemingly, we're not getting a Pokemon entry this year. They've been maybe oversaturated the past few. We got Arceus, we got Scarlet and Violet, right? Almost felt like right off the back of... What was the one in England? But it wasn't really England.
Sword and Shield.
Like, that felt like we got back to back to back, and in between all the other announcements and the movies and the shows, it's like, whoa, right, slow down, guys, slow down. But yeah, coming either way. And let's start to round out the show, gentlemen. I did realise, actually, we passed like the 1 hour mark, and it was like, oh, we don't have to rush and round up.
Yeah,
because
we don't have another show to record after this.
It's great. We don't have to just stop and start and trim. Your final Xbox games with gold have been revealed for the month of August. And I'd like to say it's going out with a bang, but we've been saying for many, many years now, games with gold should just disappear and fold into Game Pass. Game Pass? Yeah, Game Pass. It's ending with 2 games, Blue Fire and Inertial Drift. Bye, games with gold. Thanks for hanging around, I guess. 2 small indie titles. Blue Fire's alright, but I played it a little bit back in the day. Either of these 2 catch your eyes? Are you going to be saying goodbye to games with gold?
I enjoyed Blue Fire on Stadia, but I've never had games with gold. Even since I've had my Xbox, I've never really interacted with it.
Yeah.
As someone who's late to the Xbox ecosystem, it already felt that it should have been... Game Pass was already the thing. It felt like games with gold should have already been gone by the time I came in. And there was never any title that came that I was particularly bothered about.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's been replaced for the better. As we covered a few weeks back on our X Pass podcast, is the games with gold is essentially going to be Game Pass core, and that's going to start out with features with games like Gears 5, Grounded, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice. So if you're getting into the ecosystem now, that core entry point at the games with gold price point, it's going to net you a lot, arguably way better games than you would have ever had. So enjoy, but yes, rest in peace, games with gold. It's a shame they didn't go out with like a bang, really, but that is what it is. Gentlemen, I think that's all the news we have for this week's show. So I think doing things in a slightly different order, let's wind down the show in the week is what we're playing. And I've also got a nice little fact bit I like to add in, which is looking back at video game history. So before we round up the show with that, Rob, I'll start with you. What's your plans for the week ahead? What are you playing this weekend?
I will be playing
any platform, mate. Any platform.
Any platform.
Tell us about
amazing,
it.
Isn't it?
You asked and you received, audience.
I'm going to be exploring the horde mode feature that just got added to Starship Troopers. So, which is kind of like the best representation of the movies. You know, kind of when in that compound and they have to like kind of defend them.
Tower. Yeah.
Basically that, like they've added like the machine gun towers, which you can add and stuff like that. And there's almost like an exact quote from Michael Ironside, is it?
Yeah, you want to live forever?
Yeah. No, like I can't remember what he says. But like they've taken like the exact quotes from him and like put them on the announcer and stuff like that. So I'm gonna have fun with that. And then if I can put a bit more time into Skyrim, but that's a big commitment. So we'll see.
Is the allure of Starfield kind of got you now starting to take the foot off the gas a little bit? You know, when there's a big thing on the horizon, you kind of like almost like cleanse yourself of any games at the moment because you're like, right, few weeks, I'm full on into
I'm playing Starship
Starfield.
Troopers because I can pick it up for 45 minutes, have a couple of games, and then put it down.
And when Starfield drops, you can just go, right, I'm done, moving on to that.
Yeah. And I'll still revisit that game because it's early access and they're bringing out lots of content for it. But yeah, like it needs to make way for like the wake of Starfield, so to speak.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Sounds like a fun week. Richie, how about yourself? What you playing? What you planning on playing for the week ahead?
So I have a conundrum with Starfield because I do want to play Starfield immediately, but I also want to play Final Fantasy 16, and I'm still on 7 Remake. I'm literally on the last fight of the story mode and hard mode, and then I've just got a bit of cleanup to get the platinum. So it's like I've got like 2 mini game trophies to get and 2 post game bosses to beat, and then I'm done. I'm hoping this weekend, because I don't actually have to edit a show this week. So I have a bit more time back. We're not recording for as long. So instead of the podcast taking up our entire like Saturday or Sunday, it's taken maybe a couple of hours of my day. So I can get straight back in, finish the last boss, get the few like last trophies done, and then hopefully going into next week I'll be starting 15, and then I'm probably just gonna have to juggle that in Starfield a bit.
I was going to say, you're starting 16 heading into Starfield time. That's going to be an interesting... Like, if you go, I'm really enjoying 16, and then we both jump on the show, me and Rob, like, Starfield is absolutely amazing. Richie, and you're like, shit.
I am playing it day one. I'm committed to playing it day one, and then probably have to figure out time to juggle the 2 games. But the thing is, I've been enjoying the Platinum Trophy hunt for 7, even though at times it's been a bit of a especially in hard mode. It's some fights in hard mode that you think that should be in relatively easy. Like, he's just a bunch of generic enemies, and then it's like, die. It's like, you go up against the boss, no bother. It's like, this is just weird. Like, it's just, I think the way they've done the difficulty scaling, they've just went, all right, we're just going to raise the difficulty of everything, like in a very linear fashion. Everything's going to do more damage. Everything's going to be like shorter cooldowns. Everything's going to have more health. And when you're up against a lot of small mobby creatures, if you can't take them out quick enough, they can really stack up against you.
Yeah.
Where sometimes with the boss, you're fighting one big thing, you can be a bit more strategic and not get mobbed. But I'll get there.
What a conundrum you have. I'm still on the cusp of my Final Fantasy 16 Platinum. I've had to play through it in the hard mode, Final Fantasy mode, which just throws another boss fight at you like every 5 minutes. I'm on the penultimate segment now. I've got a couple of side missions to do. My only 2 trophies are level up all abilities and finish the story again, and I'm at the last chapter of the story. My abilities, I've got 2 more I need to finally upgrade, but the points are like crazy. So like the initial abilities are like, it's only 500 ability points. The last ones are like 5,000, so like every time you're grinding for it. So a little bit of grind on some side fights, and I'll be good.
We're in similar situations with
just different
Final Fantasy
generations.
games, actually.
It's crazy.
Does the Final Fantasy mode in 16 block out the use of items? Because it does in 7 Remake.
It doesn't.
In 7 Remake, it just goes, right, you can't use items.
No, I am taking on the hard mode with the Ring of Timely Focus, the Ring of Timely Evasion, and the Ring of Timely Strikes, which is basically you just mash square and it does everything for you. It avoids attacks, it uses the specials when it needs to, and it just does the most damage. And my like thumb right now is aching from just going square.
Yeah, I don't have that. I don't have that.
Yeah, I didn't use it on the first playthrough because I was like, I want to enjoy the game for what it is. But then, yeah, you unlock them quite early on in the game, and you can just take them in and out of the inventory as you see fit, and swap them out for like boosters and stuff like that. But hopefully I'm done with that heading into Starfield. So I'll probably have like a really like week and a half of just I can do and play what I want. So probably a bit of FIFA or something for me. I might finish Hi-Fi Rush because that's been sat there as well, waiting to get back to. But gentlemen, that brings us to an end of the show. And like I said, I'd like to do something new with the GamerGuild podcast and just round it out by looking back of this week in gaming as we reflect on the history of the industry. Starting with August 14th. Just recently passed us a few days back. In 1989, 34 years ago, the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive launched. 34 years, gentlemen, just to make you feel a little bit old.
That's older than us.
It is. I don't think it launched in the UK early, so it probably wasn't as bad for us, but that was one of them. Also launching with Altered Beast, the Sega game, if anyone remembers that, where you turn the side-scroller where you turn to the different creatures. One for you, Richie. 16 years ago, PlayStation 2, 2007, Shin Megami Tensei, aka Persona 3, launched. Billy Boots on that one.
It's getting remade, so I'm looking forward to that.
August 15th, also, Rob, throwback to what you mentioned earlier on, 36 years ago today in Europe, Duck Hunt came out for the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1987.
I knew it in my bones, that's why
You could feel it. Launched the same day as Metroid, 1987.
That's quackers.
Oh, dear. Dear. Right, I want to move on. To bring it up to a little bit more recently, Richie, 2017, 6 years ago, Sonic Mania launched on Nintendo Switch, PS4 and Xbox One. Still haven't had a sequel.
2017.
Yep.
Damn.
Exactly. So much so, it's taken over. Wolfenstein reboot, 14 years ago, 2009, which seems crazy to say that out loud as well. And I guess one for the notebooks as well. Amy Hennig, 15 years ago, known for the Uncharted series, Legacy of Kain, and the upcoming Star Wars game. 1964, she was born on August 19th, so the day of recording. So a couple of things there. I think it's a nice look back, but also I feel like every time we do this every week, it's going to make us feel very, very old. But yeah. Duck Hunt and the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive, depending on where you live in the world. 34 years. Ouch, that stings. But this show has only been going for one episode, so thank you very much to everybody who's tuned in for the first episode of the GamerGuild Podcast, where every week we get together here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also up there, available in the digital clouds on your podcast preference of choice. Myself, Chris, Rob, and Richie get together to break down all of the gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure. Thank you very much for everyone. I guess we've gone through a big transition recently. We're hoping you all love the new brand. Do not forget there is a merchandise store that is now available. If you go to YouTube, underneath the video you should find the links for all the products. If not, it will be in the description, and there is 15% off right now. So if you do want to grab yourself a t-shirt, a hat, a cup, anything like that, get it now because you'll get your discount off. Gentlemen, any final points you guys want to add on for the first ever episode of the Gamer Guild podcast?
Just thank the audience for supporting us with the change. Everyone's been very receptive to it and understanding that the cancellation of Talking the PS and of XPass and of Lunar Listening all in one go to unify into one podcast. Everyone's been very welcoming to, and I hope you like the updated format and the fact that we're covering more platforms. I think this is the best show we've done, to be honest. For our gaming podcasts, I think every time we update a show, every time we do a new show, we kind of learn over the years. I think this is probably the best we've got, so I'm hoping you guys agree.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I'm just very happy we can talk about the superior form of gaming.
Oh, don't go
the
there.
Nintendo Switch.
The sucker console nerds.
Oh, he did it. He went there. He went there.
Oh God.
But
Rob's
yes.
our resident mobile game reviewer from now on. That's your punishment.
Yeah, go play Angry Birds, Rob.
I will.
Just being bought by
on
Sega.
my
Actually.
PC.
Oh.
Have you seen? Did you see that?
99,000 frames per second.
My
That'd just be
eyes.
difficult.
My eyes.
That would actually make it harder.
So fast. I guess it's just been really fantastic, very well received, and I'm looking forward to the new chapter in the channel, the new chapter in the content we do. And I think a few people have stressed as well, the live streams aren't going anywhere, the watch-alongs, and we did try and stress that in the announcements. But yeah, everything in theory just stays the same. We, depending on schedules and stuff, the plan is just to get this out to you every week. It's still on the same feeds, the same channels. But yeah, just doing what's right for all parties involved. And we do hope you enjoy it. We hopefully, anyone who's still here at the end, thank for, I guess, a bonus boost to length episode. If you do this on your commute to work, you probably listen to this half on your journey back from work because it's gone over the hour mark. So I hope you're all having a good day. Hope you're all having a good week in gaming out there. And remember, everyone, play whatever makes you the happiest. We'll see you next week. Take care. Goodbye.
Goodbye.